Our group discussed this idea of humans in the loop. So when bots need actual people behind the scenes. And so there were a couple of things that we talked about. One is what scenarios are good for humans and what scenarios are good for automation. So some people thought that things that are very task-oriented are totally fine if it's automated, especially if we know how to execute that task. But things that are maybe more emotion-oriented could be better for humans. And one example of an emotion-oriented one was some of the people in our group were creating bots that help you with things that require a sense of style or a sense of fashion, like buying furniture or styling yourself. And so for that, having humans actually is an added value for the experience. The other one is that there are also other scenarios where it's useful to have a human, which is when the bot gets stuck, and how to escalate to human is one important thing to learn, but also how once you're in a human space, how do you de-escalate and go back to the automation? And it seems like there is some initial work in that space, but there's still a lot of opportunities for growth. The other one that people talked about is this ability to include humans that have certain skills that either for legal reasons or for other reasons you actually need the humans. So people mentioned things like mortgage brokers and so on, that legally you actually need somebody with certain certifications. So for that you actually need to have a human in the loop. Then the other thing that people discussed were issues around privacy. And so once you have people or humans in the loop representing a bot, people need to be aware of this. But apparently in a lot of the experiences that people have had so far with users really don't care that much if there are humans or not. Especially people talked about some scenarios with teenagers and how there are bots that interact with them, and they really don't have as much concerns about that. And then the other one that we talked about a lot was how to source workers. So there are different ways in which you can get people. There is 1099 workers, there is full-time people, full-time employees, and then there is like a combination of both. And so people were talking about the pros and cons of different approaches, both in terms of cost, as well as in terms of what kind of information and skills you need. And so some of the folks in the group were saying that maybe you need like a hybrid approach where you have some decentralized and some centralized tasks. So the centralized ones you have employees of your company dealing with, but the ones that are kind of menial tasks, you may have people, 1099 workers or so, doing it outside the company. And lastly, we discussed what kind of gaps there are in current technologies for addressing this. And one of them was the training machine learning with human label data. Apparently, a lot of the tools today are simply about helping you route to humans once they go from bot to human, but there is not a lot to kind of train the machine learning with that data. Some initial tools around this space are like Lewis and with.ai and others, but they're still very rudimentary and there's more work needed there. And then the ability to have tools that help you transfer the state of the whole conversation and historical conversations between the bot and the user. And lastly, one that people have been saying for a long time is this idea of how do you transfer all these personal preferences and personal information from the bot, from the user to the bot, and from the bot to the human in the loop through some kind of personal API. And people were thinking that maybe Facebook will be the best position for doing this, but there's also some concerns about that. And I think that's it. And just in terms of payments, one thing is that people have taken different approaches for payments, both hourly workers or task-based, transaction-based. And some of the folks in the table have gone from one model to the other for both cost reasons as well as incentive mechanisms. Sometimes work better if they're transaction-based. That's it.